Hey, this is Antonio. Welcome back to my channel. Now, who's ready for some fighting words? In this video, I want to talk about Manny Pacquiao and his return to boxing in the ring. Really quick, if you like the videos, please subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. And if you have subscribed to the channel, please tell a friend who's a fan of boxing. We want to circulate these videos, we want to circulate the channel and grow the channel. And if you have not done so already, please hit that thumbs up button. Let's get back to this video. So Manny Pacquiao apparently, so he had an exhibition fight with DKU, in which case it seemed like Manny Pacquiao had the time of his life. And he basically beat DKU from one side of the ring to the other side of the ring while having a smile on his face and laughing and giggling the entire time. So he looked really good. He still had his speed. And I would say his cardio was up to par. I mean, there were many rounds in which case he never even sat down in between rounds, although he was doing all the action the whole fight, beating up DKU. But that's not what this video is about. Manny Pacquiao has stated that he would still like to get his hands on Errol Spence, The Truth, and Terence Crawford. But now, basically this video is to ask the question, what's, number one, the likelihood of Manny Pacquiao actually getting those fights? And let's just say if he were to get the fights, what would be the likelihood that he would be successful in either one of those bouts? So I suppose we can start with Errol Spence. Manny Pacquiao fighting Errol Spence. Now, they were supposed to fight before, however, circumstances, he ends up fighting Ugas. Okay, well, that didn't go too well for Manny Pacquiao. And if you ask me, I think Ugas is not on the level of Errol Spence. And when I look at that upper echelon of the 147-pound fighters, Ugas was never really there for me. I'm not saying that. I felt like he was definitely out of the top five. And, you know, where he ranks from 6 to 10 is anybody's, guess. I would put him somewhere around 7 or 8. So, in my personal opinion, he just lucked up on that fight, basically. But we all see what happened with Ugas and Manny Pacquiao. It was a very hard fight for Manny Pacquiao. He had to pull out all the stops and go extra hard in the paint for that fight. Now, that's Ugas, a guy that I do not believe is not in the top 5. And I don't think anybody's going to dispute that with me. And he had the fight of his life, and he lost. He came up short. He had a training camp for that and still came up short. And he was younger. He's older now. So when I look at him saying that he would like to get his hands on Errol Spence, I can only think that must be some type of money grab, and I don't understand why he would need to do a money grab because Manny Pacquiao has made a boatload of money throughout his career. But on top of that, we've seen with DKU, he can easily do an exhibition, and he can make a boatload of money with no harm, no hurt, or danger coming his way, and it would be him dishing out all the pain. So again, I'm not really sure why he would want this fight. I can only come up with the fact that looking at the exhibition fight with DKU, you could clearly see that Manny Pacquiao was truly in love with just being back in the ring. He loved the roar of the crowd. He loved them chanting his name. He loved that ring walk. He liked dancing around the ring, and he liked punching his opponent. And I think that resurgence of warrior instinct and that dog inside just wants to get back out and be let off the leash. Now, that I don't question because, again, he could just stick to exhibition fights. But what I question is, again, who you want to fight. I think Manny Pacquiao fighting Errol Spence, I don't care if Manny Pacquiao has been well resting over this little bit of time that he's been retired. I don't care if he's had the best nutritionist. I don't care if him and Freddie Roach come up with the best, most superb and supreme game plan that they could possibly muster. I still don't see in any way, shape, nor form, Manny Pacquiao can beat Errol Spence. I don't think Manny Pacquiao... Now listen, when it comes to power, I think Manny Pacquiao has power, and it well translated up to, his weight at 147. But I don't think he can match Errol Spence in 12 rounds because I don't think he can put Errol Spence away. Even if he were to win, which I seriously doubt, I do not believe that Manny Pacquiao could put Errol Spence away. I think it would be somewhat of a competitive fight. I do think for maybe about 8 9 rounds, that it will be competitive. I mean, as we saw in the fight with Ugas, it was competitive not just for Manny Pacquiao, but also for Yordenis Ugas. But again, Ugas is not in the top 5, and he's not that upper echelon. Errol Spence is that upper echelon. Errol Spence is undefeated. Errol Spence has taken on and defeated all challengers that has come his way opposite the ring against him. And I just don't see Manny Pacquiao getting that done. Now, yes, Manny Pacquiao beat Keith one-time Thurman, but styles make fights. And the way Keith one-time Thurman fights, he's a very elusive guy, uses his legs a lot, he has no problem backing up. He would give Manny Pacquiao, basically he gave Manny Pacquiao what Manny Pacquiao needed to be Manny Pacquiao. Errol Spence would not give Manny Pacquiao what Manny Pacquiao needs to be Manny Pacquiao. And Errol Spence would actually take away what Manny Pacquiao needs in order to be successful in a fight. Errol Spence would take that away from Manny Pacquiao. So I don't think Manny Pacquiao at this stage in his career, I don't really know if it's a career again, but in this stage in a fight game, at his age, he could handle Errol Spence. I definitely don't believe he could handle Errol Spence for 12 rounds. I don't think he can handle Errol Spence for 9, 10 rounds. That's just too much firepower. It's too much relentless firepower. And when we talk about a true welterweight, who actually might be a little bit big for the weight, Errol Spence. Errol Spence could have easily, at pretty much any time in his professional career, fought at 154, no problem, successfully, and probably still have held titles. So when I look at, Errol Spence going up against, little Manny Pacquiao, I don't know. Too much of a size differential. But on top of that, Errol Spence can easily throw 100 punches in a round. And Manny Pacquiao, to his credit, can throw a lot of punches in a round as well. But at this age, at his age, I don't necessarily know if he can do what he used to do in the ring in terms of just throwing a lot of that machine gun punching. I don't believe he can. And then you're just talking about the relentless bodywork of Errol Spence. You're talking about a guy who's not going away, a guy who's not going to back down, and that you have Manny Pacquiao who's not going to back down either. It just wouldn't look good for him. I have always said that, especially when it was thought that we were going to see the fight between Errol Spence and Manny Pacquiao, I always said Errol Spence would win that fight. I don't think it'd be easy money, but I think over the duration of the fight, it would become easy money. And it would start off as a fight, and it would turn into a beating overall, just because of that warrior spirit that Manny Pacquiao possesses. But that's just basically it when it comes to Errol Spence. I just think that's way too much firepower. I think that's a big, strong welterweight who's really 154 pounds fighting at 147. That's what I think. And I think he's relentless. I think he's tenacious. I think he wouldn't let Manny Pacquiao get 1 inch of breathing room in that ring. Now we go to Terence Bud Crawford. No. So there's no many levels. One, I think Terence Bud Crawford could actually keep Manny Pacquiao at bay. Much longer arms, very intelligent boxer. I think he could keep Manny Pacquiao at bay. Manny Pacquiao never had the greatest defense in the world, and I think Terence Crawford would start to pick on that very early in the fight. And I just see that jab keeping him at distance, and I think it would kind of, at least for the first half of the fight, because I do believe Terence Crawford would finish Manny Pacquiao. But I think for the first half of the fight, I think the fight would look very similar to Manny Pacquiao's fight against Floyd Mayweather. I think will look very similar to that fight, how Floyd basically just kept the distance, kept that jab, and then every once in a while shot that too, because Manny Pacquiao is susceptible to that right hand over and over and over again. So you have Terence Bud Crawford, and I think he could get that right hand in pretty successfully and consecutively. Now, that's that from distance. I think Terence Crawford would finish the fight with a knockout, because I think he would bait Manny Pacquiao into something. And again, the warrior that Manny Pacquiao is, the mad dog that Manny Pacquiao is, I believe he would fall for the bait, and he would chase it, and he would get laid out because of it. As we've seen in his recent fight with David Avenesian, Terence Crawford, and I personally believe that he was setting that finish up much earlier than the 6th round. I believe he started working on that around round 4 when he allowed David Avanesian to close the distance. I don't believe David Avanesian found his way in with Terence Crawford. I think Terence Crawford invited him in. And I think he would do the same thing with Manny Pacquiao. I think Manny Pacquiao has some disadvantages if he's going to fight Terence Bud Crawford. One, it would be the spacing. And I think Terence Crawford could keep that spacing. 2, the counterpunching and the slick defense that Terence Bud Crawford has. And 3, I think, like I said, I just believe he would actually allow Manny Pacquiao in. Now, I do think Manny Pacquiao hits very hard, as we all know. He's a finisher. He's a tough, durable guy. But I think it would be a tougher fight for Errol Spence than I think it would be for Terence Crawford. Just because the mentality of the way Manny Pacquiao fights. He's just, a blood and guts type of guy. And Terence Crawford loves those type of fighters because they're very easy to read, in which case he wouldn't have to take 2-3 rounds to kind of figure him out. He knows what he's getting in there with. It wouldn't be that hard. And then you look at Errol Spence, he just wouldn't care. Like, Errol Spence just wouldn't care. If you want to go down that rabbit hole and you want to make it into an alley fight, by all means, Errol Spence will meet you there. If you want to make it a boxing match, I just see Errol Spence turning Manny Pacquiao into Mikey Garcia all over again. So overall, I just don't see how Manny Pacquiao could match up against either guy, to be fair. I am a true Manny Pacquiao fan. I love Manny Pacquiao. I truly do. But I think we need to be realistic. And I think whoever's in this corner, whether it be Freddie Roach, I think we need to be realistic with our goals. And if we don't want what happened in the Ugas fight afterwards, where Manny Pacquiao's wife was literally spoon-feeding him because he couldn't do it himself, I think Errol Spence would do much worse. And I don't necessarily think that Terence Crawford would do much worse, because I don't think it would last that long if he fights Terence Crawford. But I think overall, it just wouldn't be a good look. I'm not a big fan of legends of the sport coming back and then getting brutally knocked out. I've always been a great fan of Roy Jones. I mean, anybody who watched Roy Jones in the 90s, how can you not be a fan? Dude was literally Superman. But when his time had passed, and he was getting knocked out all over the place, all the time by different guys, by guys that he would have destroyed 3, 4, 5 years earlier. He would have destroyed. He would have made highlight reels out of those guys. But because his time had passed, they ended up making highlight reels out of him. And I see Errol Spence and Terence Bud Crawford making highlight reels out of Manny Pacquiao if he were to get in the ring with them. I think he's a great fighter, but I also think that his time has passed. There's a reason why Floyd Mayweather says he's TBE, but he's only getting in there right now with YouTubers. His time has passed, and he realized that. And as much as I love Manny Pacquiao and I love seeing him in the ring, I would much rather see him in the ring with the likes of a DKU than an Errol Spence or a Terence Bud Crawford. If he wants to get in there with Chavez Sr., by all means, get in there with him. He wants to do a rematch with Ricky Hatton, by all means, get in there with him. I'd love to see it. Manny Pacquiao and the Hitman all over again, who wouldn't want to see that? Chavez Jr., I'd love to see that. But to get in there with prime, top-notch, high-level, elite fighters of today, no. I would darn near call that suicidal. But those are my thoughts. Drop your thoughts down below. What do you think about Manny Pacquiao having a potential fight with Errol the True Spence or Terence Bud Crawford? Drop your thoughts down below. And as always, please like, please share, please subscribe to my channel.